Thank you everyone for joining us today for the webinar. We're going to take a look at closing the gap between the manufacturing side of engineering and the building side of engineering. And so to do that today, we're going to take a look at some products that are available inside of the Autodesk collections. And from the product design and manufacturing collection, we'll take a look on the Inventor side as well as the factory design utilities. And we'll talk about the AutoCAD side some. And then from the building side, we have the architectural engineering and construction collection, where Mr. Dan will take over and show you guys from the Revit side, as well as discuss some Navisworks topics. So as Ms. Ashley said, as you guys are going through this, if we have any questions, those can be asked here in the question panel. And we will have a Q&A session at the end. If it's something easily answered as we're going through, Dan will try to answer those, and then when he takes over the presentation, I will try as well to keep up. So the agenda for today's webinar is we're going to take a look at IFM, or Integrated Factory Modeling, the factory utilities from the Inventor side, some layout tools from the Inventor side, exporting a model over to Revit, and then Mr. Dan's going to take it over and show us how to bring this factory model into Revit, as well as looking at the products from the Revit side and the Navisworks side. So when we start thinking about IFM, or integrated factory modeling, it's more like a digital twin, and has also been called Industry 4.0, as they like to add these monikers to them. But the integrated factory modeling is a much more accurate acclimate to the end result for customers. And it's not just a base or a foundation, it's everything to digitize, from conceptual sketching all the way through implementation and building. And so to do this, it just helps us take these next steps and making sure everything is going to fit. So you've got the 3 F's, the form, fit, and function. So we can make sure that everything that we're working with, from the mechanical side to the electrical side to the P&ID side, all the way over to the building side, the walls, the curtain walls, the platforms, the layouts, everything works together, and we just want to take and combine these industries and these different softwares into one unique modeling aspect. And so to do that, we've got the Autodesk side of things working around the center of IFM, or integrated factory modeling, from structural engineers to facility management, shop floor personnel, purchasing, estimating, production planners, finance managers. It all just kind of flows around the building itself, and that's what we're going to look at today. So most companies work in these functional silos, and they work for everyone. Department heads have a set up process for how it works with their area, and then they communicate with others. Sometimes it's via Microsoft Excel, sometimes it's PDF, sometimes it's through email, but sometimes little attention is paid company-wide as far as the flow of information. So some employees may need more information than what they're getting, or some employees may need to pass on more information than what they're available to pass along because of the limited, or being limited to not being able to pass along those 3D models, or this 3D model may not work on this side, or we may not be able to bring it into this other platform. And so that's where we start looking at the Autodesk side of products, and can we bring in the Revit and the Inventor and the Plant and the P&ID and combine those? And yes, we can. So when we start on the production planning side, there's a wide variety of trades to be coordinated. All the people involved must be supplied with the latest data. How do we get the latest data? Are we using a data management solution, or PDM? Are we handing off paper copies where now we've made an update and they're outdated? So do we have those digital forms that we are sending out? Are we saving them on a shared location? Are we sharing them across SharePoint or Autodesk Vault? Or how are we getting that information out when a change happens? So with production planning, media supply as far as ventilation, lighting, electricity, water, and then of course building planning, we only see a small excerpt of all of those parties involved. So we want to take that to the next level and combine these on the 3D side. And to do that, we need a integrated 3D model. And so this short video here, this is a walkthrough from a product called Navisworks. And included in both of the collections for product and manufacturing, as well as the architectural, engineering, and construction side, is Navisworks Manage. And that allows us to create this 3D walkthrough or virtual walkthrough of the building, of the factory, of the layout. And this gives us more of a presentation that we can take in and talk with our facilities and discuss. And so, all right, all of the project participants are here. Here's what we're looking at. When we try to take this piece of machinery, move it through here, we're going to have to move this, or we're going to have to go a different route. Well, if we've got everything built into that one collaborated model, we can do that easily. And so that's where factory design utilities comes in. And where are those located? Well, they're on the manufacturing side. And inside of Inventor, once you've installed the factory design utilities, it's a separate install. But once you have that installed, inside of Inventor, you have a factory tab in your ribbon. Inside AutoCAD, you have a factory tab, as well as inside Navisworks. Inside Inventor, you can go directly to AutoCAD and Navisworks. Inside AutoCAD, you can go directly to Inventor and Navisworks. And then inside Navisworks, you can go directly back to Inventor or to AutoCAD. And so what happens when you select one of these, from the Inventor side, it will take the 3D models that you've shown and it will create a flat view of those and open it inside AutoCAD Mechanical. If you started in AutoCAD Mechanical and you're using the factory utilities and assets, and you select Open in Inventor, it will prompt you to save, and then launch Inventor and open that model for you on the Inventor side and show you the 3D form of those assets that you were just looking at on the 2D side. And then if you want to take either of those over to Navisworks, it will take that 3D model and present that there inside of Navisworks for you. So those three kind of work in connection there with each other, and they're live models. They're linked with each other, and we do that via AnyCAD. And we'll talk about AnyCAD a little bit once we get into the Inventor side here. But these factory design utilities, this is what helps us take and create this factory layout. And then we can take and we send it over to the Revit side. And so in this case here, I've got this screenshot of a conveyor layout. Got a catwalk, I've got some machinery in here, I've got a storage rack, some safety rails, just different components that we can quickly use to lay out from the software, and then export this over to the Revit side. So we're going to jump over to the software now. Now, once we have the factory utilities installed, we also get some specialized factory templates. So inside my Inventor templates here, on the factory side, I have a standard inch and a standard metric template. So we're just going to start one from scratch here. And we get a grid. By default, the grid is on. If you don't like the floor or the grid here, you can turn that off, but by default, it is on here. Now, inside the factory utilities, we have an asset browser. And inside the asset browser, we have different categories. And so from architectural, through walls, through doors, through windows, through structural beams, ladders, column layouts, pits and platforms, spiral staircases, standard staircases, walkways, water fountains, building utilities as far as ductwork, square, rectangular, circular, electrical cable trays, data centers, cabinets. All of these are standard assets that come with the factory design utilities. So there's placeholders that we can use. Now you can use your own assets, your own Inventor models if you have those created. Via Autodesk AnyCAD connection, you can place SolidWorks, CATIA, Pro-E, step files, any of those files in here as well, or we can use some of these assets. So if we get into the conveying side, we've got accumulators, air conveyors, chain, bucket, double level, roller conveyors, pallet conveyors, screw conveyors, all of these different options here. We've also got a nice little search option here as well. So if we wanted to search for a platform, just type in platform and it'll show me the available platforms are here. Now, the icons here with the little circle, those are cloud assets that I have not downloaded yet. So if you wanted to bring one in, if you try, it's going to prompt you, say, hey, you have to download these first. Being a live webinar, I'm not going to do that and chew up the bandwidth, but if we have those downloaded, they're ready to go. And where we can just bring those in and drop those in anywhere on the floor here, they will automatically snap to the floor. And we can adjust the orientation, we can select it here, and then once we have it selected, we can see some properties here using the factory properties panel. And so as assets are published, we as the user, we get to choose how they can be edited. Do we offer different variants? Do we have pick list that we can adjust the length? Is it free? So in this case here, it's currently 96 wide. We'll change it to 150 wide. We'll change the length to 200, and we'll change the height to 60 inches. But we also want to adjust the number of stairs from 2 to, let's say, 7. And I'll just hit enter to update there. And very quickly, this platform adjusts. And so this is just a parametric model, just placed from the assets, but very quickly I can make an adjustment to it. So I can come back in, I can adjust it later, save it, whatever I want to do, leave it here. If I no longer need it, just delete it out, get it out of there. But then if we come in and say, you know what, we want to start with some handrails, or we know where the beam layout is supposed to be, or we want to put in our columns. So just come in here and we can rotate at any angle. I'm just going to go on a 90 here. And then notice these green connector dots. These are our little connection points. And then as I am placing some of these components, as the little connector dots get close to one another, it automatically syncs, connect those right in. So very quickly, just add a little handrail. We want to add a safety fence on the other side. Let's come in here and drop in a safety fence. And we can rotate this one as well. And then put in a couple of these here. Right there, there's also turns. So if I needed to put in a safety fence with a turn right here. So if I wanted to turn that one right there, or if I wanted to turn that one on that end to protect this area off here or whatever it is, I can do that very quickly. And then zoom out a little bit, we kind of start seeing this floor start coming together. So I'm going to scroll back up here to the conveyor side, and we'll just grab a very simple roller conveyor here. And we'll move it to this orientation as well. And we'll just drop in 3 or 4 of these. And if I go check the properties on these, it is now 30 inches high. So if I wanted to change that to 36, I'll adjust the one at 36, and all of the others changed as well. So if I select this one, it's at 36. If I select 3 of those, they're at 36, or 2 of those, they're at 36. If I change one, they all have to update as well. So we can drop in an incline right here. And again, this is just part of the parametrics. So as I adjust this one or place this one, it automatically adapts to the 36. If I change that to 38.5 for the lower end, it's going to adjust right here. And it'll come back here real quick as it comes back over. And now it's 38.5. And I select one of these others, and they're 38.5 as well. So as we add components to them, they automatically update. So we don't have to update 2 of them. We can just update the one, or whatever we're updating there, it updates for us. So we select one of these. We can also see what other parameters are available. In this case here, do we have legs? Yes or no? So maybe this is an area where we have to drive under it. So we want to get rid of the legs on this one machine, or this one section right here. So I can remove those legs. Now we can walk under it, or we can drive under it, whatever it is. So as we keep adding to this, keep adding assets, we can continue to grow our floor layout. So I've got one over here that is a more complete that I used on a previous webinar. And this is one of the types of models that I would take and send to Dan that he could lay in our building and make sure this is going to fit. And so to be able to do that, now what I would do is come over here on my environment side and go into my BIM content area. This is my, I want to send this to Revit environment. And once it loads here, I'm going to say I want to export this. And it's going to send me a little warning message here. It says, hey, if you will use a substitute, this will be a lot faster. Do you want to create one now? And I'll say, yes, I do. And so now creating a simplified model. So I've still got my assembly created. Now I'm going to create a simplified version of this model, just taking this assembly, linking it as an IPT. So I'm going to uncheck break link because I want it to remain adaptive, but I can remove any holes, any fillets, any chamfers, any pockets. I can fill internal voids, kind of make it watertight by removing internal parts. And so I've got different options for keeping the edges of each model component or merge those out if I want to merge them all so everything looks like one simple model. And so I've got these options here. Now, there's 107 unique occurrences, or 107 occurrences, 77 unique components in this model. So when I hit OK right here, this would go out and create that IPT, and then it would allow me to export this as an RFA or a Revit family, and I could send that over to Dan or put it on our shared folder, and then he could open it right up. And because I'm not breaking the link, if I make any changes to my Inventor assembly, he's placed this in his Revit file, it's going to get updated. So everything is linked back to that model. And so we're using those parametrics from the Inventor side. We've created this model. We're using these factory utilities to quickly lay out a factory floor. We're going to send this over to the architectural side and let them pulling into their building and place everything and make sure everything fits. And so to do that, we have what we call the AutoCAD. And I talked a little bit about that earlier, and we're going to take a quick look at that now. And that is right here. And so inside of Inventor, we can bring in Revit files, RVTs, any older files of Inventor, IPTs, IAMs, Fusion 360 files, we can link those to the Autodesk connector. AutoCAD files we can use as overlays, especially on the factory side, we can use those as backdrops. Alias files if we want to link in some surfaces. Step files we can convert or maintain a link. So if we're getting an updated step file, we get it updated as well. CATIA products, SolidWorks products, solid assembly, solid parts, all of those can be placed as live links. And what does that mean is we have real-time updates. So if we're working in a mixed house that we have some SolidWorks users and we're placing their SolidWorks files in our assemblies, and then they update, they make changes. Well, automatically inside of our assembly, we get a notification that the model needs to be updated. We hit update and we get a new refreshed version of that file. So now that we've kind of seen some of the factory layouts and we've talked about from the manufacturing side, we're going to pass this off to Mr. Dan here and let him take it from the building side.
All right, yeah, thanks, Mark. That was great stuff. Ready to take it from here. Let's get my presentation up and rolling here. All right, great. So hopefully everybody can see that right now. And let's take a look here. Right on. Okay, so now let's see what all of this looks like from the perspective of the building designers and how it all comes together in the various software platforms. We will first discuss how this all works from the AutoCAD architecture side, and then look at workflows with Revit, as well as a look at everything in Navisworks. So this is just a quick look at what the factory design plugin would look like inside AutoCAD architecture. You can see the asset browser as well as a 3D preview of the items. It will allow for both 2D design and easily convert it into 3D when you go back to Inventor. Now, so as you can see, these tools would typically be used by the factory layout designer, not necessarily the architects and building engineers. Therefore, the building designer using AutoCAD architecture might not have to really do anything to their files to prepare it for work by the factory design team. The factory team can open the building file or XREF and just continue working as normal. Now, there are still many companies utilizing AutoCAD, but we are really seeing most companies, especially on the building design side, using fully integrated BIM software. So if you're working with a building designer using Revit, or you are the building designer, here is what a typical workflow would look like from the Revit side, just to get the factory equipment designers everything they need. If the factory designers are using Inventor or AutoCAD architecture and they only want a 2D floor plan for coordination purposes, you can easily export your floor plan to just a 2D DWG. Then, of course, they would be able to work with that inside their software. Now, if they're using Inventor and they want to see your model linked into theirs in 3D, you can basically just send them a copy of your Revit model. And that's what I've done with Mark. And the default file type for that is just an RVT. So you'd basically just be sharing your working Revit model. Doesn't really require any cleanup or anything. All right. Now let's look at it on the back end. So let's assume the factory designer took our building design, used it in their software just as a reference to help work on their layout. And now they're ready to hand it back off to the building team. We really have two options as far as getting this back into Revit. You can simply load in the entire file as a Revit family. And that was what Mark was showing earlier. And this is a pretty good option. Even though it was not originally authored in Revit, the RFA file is a native format and it's going to work very well. The only drawback here might be that the entire layout file could be very large as file size and could cause some issues there. I'll elaborate on that a little in our demo. And then the other option is you can take the actual Inventor file and open it in Navisworks. That will automatically create a cache model, which could be inserted into Revit as a coordination model. And there's, I'll show that option first on the demo, just because I think I don't know if that option is, as powerful as the Revit one. So we'll see both. Now, once you have your factory model placed in Revit, there's a newer feature for real-time visualization. This is called Twin Motion for Revit, and the plugin will allow you to see a fully rendered version of your model in real time as items are shifted around or materials are swapped in the Revit model. The Twin Motion for Revit plugin is available free of charge within the AEC collection and is pretty fun, I might add. Watch the rest of the video here, but you can see just some of the things you'd be able to do with it. All right, now after that, after we've finished everything on the Revit side or finished discussing everything from the Revit side, the next step in the process will integrate Autodesk Navisworks. And I like to think of Navisworks as the universal model viewer. You can link pretty much any file type together. So this is good, especially if you don't want to insert your factory model into your building model or the other way around. You can just use Navisworks instead, and you can see all the models together. And once you do that, you can easily take advantage of some really cool features like animating the model and model views, and watch a simulation of the model being built, which we'll see in a couple minutes here, and even check for clashes between anything in the file. So let's take a look at the software here. Let's I'm going to kind of backtrack a minute. This is what our building model is going to look like in Revit. Here's kind of a 3D view of the building that we're working on. In floor plan, let's say I need to get the factory design team everything that they need. I actually have already loaded in the layout, but let's pretend for a minute that it doesn't exist. Let's just hide that. So if they're working in 2D, you can simply go to your floor plan view, file, export, CAD formats, DWG. You can see you've got a few other options as well. Click on DWG and send it out. I wasn't planning on showing this, but while I'm thinking about it, you can modify the settings here. So you can really customize the layers that all the items get dropped onto. So, if you have certain standards, you can adhere to those, which is nice. So once this gets saved out, you'll have a DWG there. And then, like I said, the other option is just simply send them your entire Revit model. All right, so let's say now, let's fast forward a little bit. Let's say the factory layout team has worked on their design and they send it over, and we want to show you the coordination model option first. So let's say they didn't do anything. They just sent me just the straight up inventor model. In that case, let's say I'm starting a new project and I want to see what the factory layout looks like here. You could go to Insert Coordination Model, browse to it, and here's the cache file that was created when I opened the inventor model in Navisworks. All I had to do is just go to File, Open, and that created that cache file for me. And I can open that up and insert it into my model. Now, a couple drawbacks here. One, it's not as easy to control as far as visibility goes. And up until recently, you couldn't really snap to anything. It was more of just like a blob, but it's really good for coordination. Now, if you want your factory layout to be more of like a permanent part of your model, let me turn it back on here. This was the option where the file was saved out as an RFA, and I was able to just insert it in here. And you can see that I can select the entire thing and move the entire layout. If it needs to shuffle a little bit, that would be fine. So you might think, well, how did I get there? Well, I can just go Insert, Load Family, and browse to wherever it's saved. Here's our shared folder if it's in here. And I would just load it back in from here. So if there were any updates, could take care of it that way. And yeah, I think that's it for the Revit side. So, once we've got everything combined, and here I can continue updating my model and then send any model updates back as needed. All right, so let's now take a look at Navisworks here. So depending on workflow you chose, if you inserted the factory layout inside your Revit model, you could just open the Revit file in Navisworks, or you could keep them separate and you can put all the models together in Navis. So you got two good options here. One cool thing that I like about Navisworks is if I have any 3D views from Revit, it will remember those and bring them in here for me. And you can utilize some of the walk features. I want to explore the model. I can quickly pan up and down, walk around, look around, you name it. The other thing you can do is with these saved viewpoints, you can easily have the software stitch them together. I just created very quickly some viewpoints here and told the software to seamlessly connect them together so I can kind of watch the building rotate around. Maybe I'll hide some of these so we can kind of see inside the model. So while it's spinning, but if I zoom, it stops the animation, but you can do a lot of different things like this, and you'll have the ability to kind of make it longer or shorter or swap views in and out. The other thing, which is a little more sophisticated, is I could take views. Let me unhide everything real quick. I could grab some views and stitch them together with a timeline. That will give me more control over how they look. So if I play this one, you can see the black diamonds are captured keyframes. I think given a little more time, I could have actually animated those doors to open and maybe fixed the path by adding an extra viewpoint so we didn't smash through the wall there. But very quick and easy to put in a quick little fly through here just by telling it where the keyframes need to be at a certain time. All right, so I don't think we need to run that to completion here. One of the other things that's great about this is there's something called a timeliner here. Let me run the simulation and then I'll break it down. So I like to watch this from, yeah, just a default 3D view here. Let's find a good one. That's a good one. If I click play here, you can see the building being built over time. Like there go the walls being built. Now the walls are fully built and it's showing the floors being built. Now the trusses. I can kind of spin this around a little bit. It's the roof, the joists we're in. Doors are going in. Now the factory equipment is being placed in there. Site, and then maybe furniture. Very easily obtainable to put something like this together. Just took me a little bit of time to create the tasks that I wanted. You can see them listed down here. Let me expand this a little bit. And just estimated the time and planned start and planned end date for construction of those items, and created a task type and then assigned the selected items. So for this task, for build footings, I selected all the footings and just attached them to that task. And that was it. Just let it run. And there's other things you can configure here, but basically just wanted to kind of show some of the things you can do once you have the whole model in here. Let me think if I left anything else here. Yeah, check the notes. Great. Yeah, I think that's looking pretty good. Let me see if there's any questions I can answer right now. PowerPoint here. All right. Yeah, I think that's about all I had from my side. Mark, if you got anything else, let me know. If not, I'm ready to jump ahead to the closing it out in Q&A.
No, sir, we are good. I don't see any questions coming in, so we'll leave it open for a couple of seconds, couple minutes here, see if any questions come in.
All right. Well, I'm not seeing any coming in.
All right, Miss Ashley, we don't see any questions coming in that haven't been answered. So, oh, here's one.
Okay.
Is there a way of creating custom content for the Inventor Factory? Absolutely. You can publish your own assets. So you can take any existing model that you have and add connector points, locate the floor for your model so it comes in the correct orientation. But absolutely, you can create your own assets. You can open some of the existing system assets, save those as a unique name, and then modify and reuse those as well. Thanks, Wes. Let's see, John, does this work in 2023? Absolutely. So the Inventor Factory utilities, from the factory layout side of things, those have been around since the Inventor 2012 release. So absolutely that will work with 2023. And is Revit needed to run this? Only if you're going to be importing the Inventor files or the factory layout files over into Revit, yes. Otherwise, you could just use Inventor and Navisworks for what Dan showed there on the Navisworks side. So Wes has another question here. When one model is changed, the relationship to the change attached ones changes as well. Yes, it does. So inside the softwares, as long as they are linked, if they are converted to standard models or the link is broken, then they will not automatically update. As long as they are linked back to the parent model, you'll get a notification there inside of Inventor that your model that was placed via the AutoCAD solution has an update. Same thing on the Revit side. If I send Dan an updated model, he sees the little update icon there, he can refresh it and the model gets updated as well. So how are assets added? The assets are added when you publish your assets. You set up the shared folder where you want those assets to be so that you can share those with other coworkers. If you're running Vault Professional, you can also have those have the factory configuration imported into your Vault, and it will store those in a specific area in the Vault as well. Otherwise, just any shared folder location. If it's a one-person shop, then it's going to be in your local C users directory, which is the default, and that's where those are stored. And you can copy from, open from there at any point, make a change to it, and republish as well. Will this work with a PDM like Upchain? Absolutely. Yep, Inventor is fully integrated and works with Upchain. So any of the asset modeling from the Inventor side standard models or asset models from the factory utilities absolutely will work with Upchain.